The story begins in 1959. A new school was being inaugurated in the city of Lexington, America. Just before school began, all the children were spending their time playing outside. Meanwhile, a little girl named Lucinda stood quietly, facing the sun. A strange, eerie, whispering sound echoed in her ears. Surprisingly, only Lucinda could hear this sound. Just then, their teacher, Miss Taylor, arrived and asked everyone to return to class. The other students rushed to their classrooms, but Lucinda remained there, lost in her thoughts. However, Miss Taylor somehow managed to bring her inside. Miss Taylor reminded all the children that their school's opening ceremony would be held tomorrow, and a competition had been arranged for the occasion. In this competition, all the children were asked to draw an imaginary picture showing how they thought the world would look in the next 50 years. Just then, Miss Taylor brought out a time capsule, which made all the children very excited. The time capsule was a container that would hold all their drawings. It would be buried underground, and after 50 years, the capsule would be taken out to see which child's drawing best matched the future. In fact, it was Lucinda who had suggested the idea of a time capsule to her teachers during another competition held a month earlier. Miss Taylor praised Lucinda for this and began the competition. After that, all the children started working on their drawings. During this competition, some imagined space travel in the future, while others drew a robotic age. When the competition ended, Miss Taylor began collecting all the drawings, but she noticed something unusual. Lucinda hadn't drawn a picture. Instead, she had filled her entire paper with strange numbers, writing them non-stop. It seemed as if she had no control over her hands. Lucinda was about to write all the way to the edge of the paper when Miss Taylor snatched it away. Lucinda stared at her with a distressed gaze. The story then moves to the next day, when the school's opening ceremony was being celebrated. Miss Taylor saw Lucinda standing sadly, holding a balloon, away from the rest of the children. Meanwhile, the time capsule containing all the drawings was buried in the ground. At the same time, Lucinda suddenly disappeared, and only her balloon was seen floating in the sky. Alarmed, Miss Taylor immediately called the police and began searching for Lucinda throughout the school. After much effort, Miss Taylor found Lucinda in the gym. She was bruised, and her fingers were covered in blood. She had scratched more numbers onto the door with her fingernails. Seeing this, Miss Taylor's eyes widened in shock. The same whispering sound still echoed in Lucinda's ears, and she couldn't understand what was happening to her. With this, the story moves forward 50 years, to the year 2009. Here we are introduced to a professor named John, who studies astrophysics. John is a widower. His wife had passed away a few years earlier, and since then, he had been living alone with his son, Caleb. Being a single father often made him feel overwhelmed by his responsibilities toward his son. One day, after giving a lecture at college, John was about to have coffee with his friend Phil, when he suddenly remembered that he had to go to his son's school for its 50th anniversary celebration. He immediately rushed to Caleb's school. It turned out that this was the same elementary school where the time capsule had been buried 50 years earlier. Today, the capsule was being dug out, much to the excitement of all the children and teachers. Miss Taylor, now an old woman, was invited as the chief guest. After her speech, the time capsule was opened, and envelopes containing the children's drawings were distributed among the students. Coincidentally, Caleb received the envelope that once belonged to Lucinda. When he opened it, he found a list of numbers written by her. While trying to decipher the numbers, John hears the same whispering sound, just like Lucinda, echoing in his ears. Just then, he notices an unknown man standing a short distance away, staring at him. Suddenly, something distracts him, and when he looks back, the man has vanished. The man's sudden disappearance leaves John confused. That night, while Caleb is doing his homework, John notices that he has removed his hearing aid. Caleb had hearing loss, which is why he needed to wear it. When John asks him about it, Caleb explains that he has been hearing a whispering sound coming from the device, so he took it off. But John assumes it's just a technical issue, and asks Caleb to adjust the volume. Then John finds a piece of paper with Lucinda's numbers in Caleb's bag. Caleb was supposed to return it to the school, but he secretly brought it home. John tells Caleb to give the paper back to the teacher and sends him to his room. John has been deeply sad ever since his wife's death, and often drinks to numb the pain. While pouring himself some wine, he accidentally spills it on his hand. When he goes to the kitchen to clean up, he unknowingly places the glass on Lucinda's paper, leaving a circular stain in the middle. Coincidentally, inside that circle, John notices some familiar numbers. Curious, he writes those numbers on a whiteboard and rearranges them. From them, he deciphers a date, November 9th, 2001, with the number 2996 written beside it. The date feels familiar. When John searches it on the internet, he realizes it refers to the 9/11 terrorist attack on the Twin Towers in New York City, where 2,996 people were killed. John is stunned. He then writes down all the numbers from Lucinda's paper on the whiteboard and starts analyzing them. To his shock, he discovers more hidden dates within the sequence. One by one, he searches them online and finds that each date is connected to a real-life disaster. September 19th, 1985. A massive earthquake in Mexico City killed 10,153 people. April 19th, 1995. The Oklahoma City bombing killed 168 people. December 26th, 2004. The Indian Ocean tsunami killed 229,866 people. In this way, Lucinda had listed the dates of all major disasters from 1959 to the present, along with the exact number of deaths. John is shaken, because these numbers were written in 1959 and locked in a time capsule for 50 years, so no one could have tampered with them. The thought of how Lucinda could have made such precise predictions leaves John reeling. The next day, he goes to his friend Phil and tells him about Lucinda's predictions. He also notices 3 more disasters listed on the paper. One of them is supposed to happen tomorrow, and according to the numbers, 81 people will die. But Phil dismisses John's claims as baseless. He points out that aside from the dates and death tolls, there are other numbers on the paper whose meaning John hasn't figured out yet. He also reminds John that in one of the accidents, his wife died in a fire. Phil believes John is twisting the numbers to fit his own grief and is only imagining connections. He advises John to stay away from those useless numbers. Hearing this, John becomes furious with Phil and storms out. Yet deep inside, he begins to doubt his own reasoning. To clear his doubts, John visits Miss Taylor at her home and asks her about Lucinda. Because of her old age, her memory is weak, but she still remembers Lucinda. She recalls how the girl always stayed apart from others and vividly remembers the day Lucinda scratched numbers onto her drawing sheet and later onto the gym door, clawing at it like an animal with her nails. John is also shocked to hear about this incident. He then shows Miss Taylor Lucinda's drawing sheet and asks if this is the same sheet on which Lucinda had written the numbers 50 years ago. Miss Taylor agrees, but because of her poor memory, John's doubts still remain. Now, John asks Miss Taylor for Lucinda's address so he can meet her and investigate further. Sadly, Miss Taylor informs him that Lucinda died a few years ago. Hearing this, John is deeply disappointed. He returns home and calls the school to try to find the 2 workers who had dug up the time capsule. Meanwhile, while Caleb is playing outside, a car stops in front of his house with 2 unknown men wearing masks. Suddenly, a whispering voice rings in Caleb's ears. Drawn by it, he walks over to the strangers and stares at them. The whispering continues, echoing in his ears. One of the men silently gives Caleb a stone. At that moment, John sees them from the window. Startled and afraid, he rushes outside. But by the time he reaches there, the men have already left. When asked, Caleb says he doesn't know who they were. He hands the stone to John. It looks like an ordinary stone. John keeps it but warns Caleb to stay away from strangers and sends him back inside the house. Continuing his investigation into Lucinda, John searches online to find out how she died. He discovers a photo of Lucinda. She had been married but died from a medicine overdose. John is reading about her carefully when his sister, Grace, suddenly comes up behind him. She tells him that their parents want to reunite with him. But John, who had long been estranged from his father, refuses and asks Grace to leave the house. Midnight passes. According to Lucinda's paper, today was the day when 81 people were supposed to die in an accident. John is glued to the news channels, waiting for such a report. But after watching for hours, he doesn't see any news of a major accident. Now, John begins to think that interpreting Lucinda's numbers as dates was just his imagination. Exhausted from drinking all night, he finally falls asleep in the morning. Meanwhile, Caleb calls him from school. Due to heavy rain and stormy weather, the school is closing early, and Caleb asks John to come pick him up. John sets out to get him, but on the way, he gets stuck in a traffic jam caused by an accident. While waiting, John calls Phil to apologize. But then his attention shifts to his car's GPS, which shows his coordinates as latitude 42.41 and longitude 71.20. When he compares these numbers with Lucinda's paper, they match exactly. John realizes the shocking truth. The extra numbers on the paper are not random, but the coordinates of the accident locations. According to the paper, today's disaster was supposed to happen exactly where John is now. He is stunned. Immediately, he gets out of his car to investigate. Up ahead, he sees that an oil tanker has crashed. However, a policeman tells him that no one has been killed. The officer is about to tell John to return to his car when suddenly, his expression changes to fear. He runs away in panic. John quickly turns around, and the sight freezes him in shock. A passenger plane crashes and slams into the ground nearby. In the next moment, John rushes toward the wreckage. Risking his life, he tries to pull out passengers trapped inside. The screams of the people and the horrifying sight of bodies burning in flames shatter his heart. Soon, a rescue team arrives, takes control of the situation, and pulls John away to safety. Later, when John reaches home, he sees Grace has already picked up Caleb from school. His attention then falls on a news report on TV, which claims the plane crash was caused by a solar flare. In fact, when magnetic changes trigger a massive explosion on the sun's surface, it releases a huge amount of electromagnetic radiation into space. At high intensity, this radiation can disrupt Earth's radio communications. In this case, the solar flare caused a malfunction in the plane's navigation system, making it crash and killing exactly 81 people, the same number written on Lucinda's paper. John is left in shock by what just happened. Meanwhile, Phil visits John's house. Though he now believes in the numbers, he still advises John to stay away from these incidents. But John is not willing to back down. Instead, he vows to prevent the upcoming 2 accidents. Late at night, while Caleb was asleep, an unknown man wearing a mask suddenly appeared in his room. Caleb woke up to the sound of footsteps and was horrified to see the figure standing there. The man then gestured for Caleb to look out the window. When Caleb looked outside, he saw a massive forest fire raging in the distance. Flames engulfed the trees, animals were dying, and even his own house was burning in the vision. Terrified, Caleb began screaming. Hearing him, John rushed into the room and found Caleb crying in a corner. At first, John thought his son had just seen a nightmare, but when he looked out the window, he noticed a strange man approaching. Grabbing a baseball bat, John ran toward him to threaten him. However, before John could get close, the man fled into the darkness. After this, John managed to find the address of Lucinda's house. When he arrived there, he saw Lucinda's daughter, Diana, along with her granddaughter, Abby. John followed them to a museum. Inside, he asked Caleb to befriend Abby while he approached Diana. Soon after, he invited Diana out for coffee. Though she was hesitant, Diana agreed. After some small talk, John went straight to the point. He told her that their meeting was not a coincidence and asked about Lucinda and the numbers she had written. But the moment Diana heard her mother's name, she became irritated and walked away. John called after her, saying that according to Lucinda's paper, 170 people would die tomorrow in New York City, and 3 days later, on October 19th, another 33 people would die. He asked her to help him solve this mystery, but Diana refused to stay another moment and left with Abby. Even so, John refused to give up. Back at home, he tracked the location where the next disaster was supposed to occur. At the same time, he heard news of a possible terrorist attack in New York City. This convinced him that the coming disaster was linked to terrorism. He immediately called the FBI, gave them the location, and urged them to secure the area. The next day, John left Caleb at his sister Grace's house for safety and went to the site himself. The location turned out to be a subway station. Police officers were already there, but the area hadn't been fully secured. After a brief argument with a policewoman, John entered the subway to search for the suspect. Soon he spotted a man with something bulky hidden under his clothes. The moment he noticed John, the man ran. Convinced he was a terrorist, John gave chase, and the police quickly followed. Eventually, the man boarded a train, but was stopped at a checkpoint where the police ordered him to raise his hands. As he did, a bundle of DVDs fell out from his clothes. He wasn't a terrorist at all, just a thief. John was left confused. If not a bombing, then what disaster could kill 170 people here? Before he could think further, a high-speed train approaching from the opposite track derailed due to a technical fault. It slammed into another train in front of it, causing a catastrophic collision. The horrific crash killed many people, exactly as Lucinda's paper had predicted. John narrowly escaped with his life. Shaken and devastated, John returned home, only to find Diana already waiting there with Abby. She explained that in their previous meeting, John had told her about the date October 19th. Her mother had once prophesied that Diana would die on that date, and for years she had feared it. After witnessing the train disaster, Diana was now convinced her mother truly had the ability to see the future. She told John that she was certain she would die in the coming accident on October 19th, and because of that, she wanted to stand by him. Together, John and Diana headed to a deserted house, Lucinda's old home. After arriving, they left Caleb and Abby in the car and went inside. Diana looked again at Lucinda's paper and noticed the last number, 33. But then she remembered that her daughter often wrote the capital letter E backwards, making it look like the number 3. Perhaps Lucinda had also written E backwards. If so, then the last message wasn't 33, but EE. But what did EE mean? Hoping to find answers, they searched the house. Diana told John that her father had always thought Lucinda was insane, so he had taken Diana and left. Lucinda used to say she came to this house for a purpose and needed to prepare for something, but Diana never understood what she meant. Lucinda had died when Diana was just 9 years old. While searching, John noticed a wall covered with newspaper articles. Each article described a past disaster. Then John's eyes fell on a painting. It showed God sending a message to his prophet through written letters. Diana explained that her mother used to stare at this painting for hours. She then led John to a room, the same room where Lucinda had been found dead. John searched the room but found nothing except a Bible. Disappointed, he was about to leave when his foot struck something on the floor. Picking it up, he was stunned to see it was a stone, exactly like the one Caleb had once received from the unknown man. The room was filled with several such stones scattered across the floor. John then looked under the bed and noticed something scratched beneath it. When he lifted the bed, he was shocked to see words carved deeply into the wood with Lucinda's nails. They read, "Everyone else." John now understands the true meaning of the double E. It stands for everyone else, meaning everyone in the world. Meanwhile, Caleb and Abby begin hearing whispers. When Caleb looks outside the car, he sees some frightening strangers approaching them. They call out to Abby, asking her to come with them. Abby falls under their influence and opens the car door. However, before the strangers can take Abby and Caleb quickly blares the car horn. Hearing the noise, John and Diana rush toward the car in fear. But by then, the strangers have already fled. When John and Diana reach the car, Caleb and Abby tell them that the strangers had come after them again. Then John notices one of the men hiding in the bushes. He tells them to lock the car doors and runs after the man with his gun. The stranger, who had been whispering, stands still, completely unbothered. John points the gun at him and demands to know why they are chasing Caleb and Abby. The man doesn't answer, but the next moment he opens his mouth, and instead of words, a blinding light shines out, dazzling John for a few moments. When John regains his sight, the man is gone. John then takes everyone back home. The next morning, when John goes to call Abby for breakfast, he finds her coloring a picture. Shockingly, it's the same painting John had seen at Lucinda's house, the one that depicts the Day of Judgment, as mentioned in the Bible. The drawing shows a blazing sun, and John realizes that the next disaster must be related to the sun. John immediately takes everyone to the MIT observatory, where he meets Phil and explains the danger of a solar flare. Until now, all solar flares released by the sun had been blocked by Earth's ozone layer, causing only minor issues like communication failures and power outages. But according to John, this time the sun is about to release a catastrophic explosion, a supersolar flare. It will unleash radiation waves of 100 microteslas, powerful enough to burn and destroy the Earth itself. The super flare would even wipe out all the planets in our solar system. At that moment, John notices the sunlight pouring through the window, unusually bright and hot, even in the middle of winter. This too is proof of the approaching solar flare. Meanwhile, Diana overhears John's conversation, saddened by the thought that her daughter will also perish in the disaster. She tells John about a cave where they could hide to escape death. Although John knows that no one on Earth can survive this catastrophe, he agrees to go with her to the cave just to give her some hope. They return home, and John quickly tells everyone to pack their belongings. Hearing this, Caleb goes to his room, but soon he hears the same whispering voices again. He loses control and begins writing numbers on a piece of paper, just like Lucinda used to. When John enters the room, he sees Caleb scribbling numbers and immediately snatches the paper and pen from him. But Caleb doesn't stop. He begins scratching numbers into the table with his nails. John shakes him to bring him back to his senses. When John looks at the numbers etched on the table, he remembers Miss Taylor's story, how 50 years ago, Lucinda had carved similar numbers onto the school's gym door. A spark of hope lights up in John's mind. He thinks Lucinda must have written the location of a safe place there. So instead of going to the cave with Diana and the children, John heads straight to the school. Inside the school, he removes the old gym door and brings it home. However, years of paint have nearly erased the numbers. John scrapes the surface of the door and at last manages to uncover the faded numbers. But by then, Diana loses patience. She takes Caleb and Abby and leaves for the cave without John. John rushes after her, but she is already far ahead. To make matters worse, Diana's phone has no signal, so she can't even share her location with him. Meanwhile, when Diana stops at a gas station to refuel, an emergency broadcast plays on TV. The president warns the citizens about the incoming solar flare and advises everyone to take shelter underground. Panic quickly spreads across the entire country. Meanwhile, Caleb calls John from a public phone booth. Diana arrives and sends him back to the car. She tells John their location and urges him to come quickly so they can head to the cave she mentioned. However, John stops her, saying no cave can keep them safe. He explains that he found the location of Lucinda's house from the door, and he believes something at Lucinda's house might protect them from the solar flare. So, John tells her to take the children there, but Diana refuses to believe this theory. They argue on the phone. Suddenly, Diana notices a stone on top of the phone booth, exactly like the stones John and she had found at Lucinda's house. When she turns around, she sees strangers kidnapping Abby and Caleb and taking them away. Horrified, Diana jumps into her car and speeds after them, but while chasing at full speed, she collides with a truck and is severely injured. Meanwhile, John arrives at the gas station and searches for Diana's car. After asking around, he reaches the accident site and finds Diana fighting for her life in an ambulance. The doctors try desperately to save her, but she dies there. A nurse informs John that Diana passed away on October 19th at exactly 12 o'clock midnight. Lucinda's prophecy about her daughter had come true. Later, as John mourns over Diana's body, he notices the same stone in her hand. He realizes the strangers have taken Caleb and Abby. Determined, John grabs his pistol and heads straight to Lucinda's house. When he arrives, he sees tire marks leading into the bushes. Following them, John discovers piles of the same strange stones scattered there. As he moves further, John comes across one of the strangers standing silently. He points his gun at him and demands to know where the children are. Just then, Caleb and Abby appear, holding a rabbit. They tell John that the people who took them aren't bad. They only want to save them from the solar flare. Suddenly, a glowing light appears in the sky, and from it, an alien ship descends to Earth. John is stunned as he realizes that the strangers are actually aliens who had disguised themselves in human form. These aliens had already known about Earth's destruction, which is why they came to save living beings. They had chosen Caleb and Abby to carry humanity forward on a new planet. Caleb begs John to come with them on the alien ship, but one of the aliens stops him and whispers that only those who can hear their voices can travel with them. Hearing this, Caleb becomes emotional. With a heavy heart, John explains to his son that the aliens have chosen him for a greater purpose, to start a new life for humanity. He tells Caleb it is something to be proud of. John then gives him a locket as a keepsake, containing a photo of John and his wife. After this, John lovingly hands Caleb and Abby over to the aliens. The aliens then reveal their true forms and take the children, along with many other earthly creatures, onto their ship. The next morning, Doomsday arrives. John goes to his parents and sister to spend his final moments with them. Soon, a massive solar flare erupts from the sun, burning and destroying the Earth completely. John perishes along with the planet. In the final scene, we see the alien ship reaching a new world. Caleb and Abby, along with their rabbit, are left there to begin a new chapter for humanity. They run toward a radiant, glowing tree, and with that, the film ends. Friends, if you liked this video and got lost in the story while watching, please subscribe to support us, so we can keep bringing you more videos like this. Thanks for watching.